SM025. KMPH, right? Alright, okay. The YouTube should be live by now. Let's get the YouTube link. Can you see the video? Double check. Just now I was listening to Cool Play. Anybody going for Cool Play? Nah. Nobody here yet. Panic. Yeah. So 1 moment, viewers. Okay, hello. Sorry. Something happened to the internet. Morning. Hey, something happened to the internet. And I did pay my bills. Sebenarnya tadi saya dengan Sir Tanky nak buat game sikit. So, while waiting for people, around Malaysia, they're always on the way and right on time, plus minus a few minutes. Okay, so kind of like we want to play this one. Yeah, Tanky, you want to try?
I'm checking.
Okay.
I'm checking.
I thought you want to say Mom do this.
I don't think I'll check.
Ayo. Okay, so easy IQ test. Well, let's just finish this one, then we quickly go there. Okay, which number is the next one in the pattern? Easily, you can see this is times 2, 64. Every number is double. And counting 1 to 100, how many times will you cross the number 7? 7, 8, 9. Well, they are... What did you write last time? 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, 57, 67, 77, 87, 97, that's 10. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79, 79, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79. So 18.
No, just want to answer is 20.
How is
70,
70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 78, 79. There's 19 there.
20.
Hmm?
7, 17, so on until 97, 10, 7.
Yeah, that's 10,
And
7.
then from 71 across 70, you have another 10. So
Oh, yeah, 2, 7 at 77.
2, 7.
Yeah. There's 2, 7 at 77. Morning, Anis. Are you guys doing this? Which number is not prime? Wow. Yeah, laughing in fear.
I think it's 297.
This is 11 plus 7.
297 is divisible.
It's 11 plus, yeah, you are 292 plus 9, 7, 18, 9. 9 divisible by 3.
Because sum of the digits is equal to something divisible by 3.
Yep. This is a do you know? You plus 2 plus 9 plus 7?
If the answer is divisible by 3, then it is divisible by
Yeah,
3.
yeah. How do you know it's divisible by 3? Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you there? Am I still alive?
You're sharing the website version, is it?
Website version. No. Wonder lah. Okay, I'm back live. Sekejap, okay. Okay, so let's begin. The first question. Okay, this is the vectors question. It's still pretty much easy. Right, so there are 2 questions here. Do you have your KMPH sets? Plane with 2 points. Okay, imagine how does it looks like. If I were to tell you, so For the trouble, saya dah jumpa dah masalah dia. Apparently, my laptop is taking Wi-Fi from another person, not from my supposed to be phone lah. Sorry, we have encounter solve the problems. Alright, so never mind, we can move on. Okay, so that's how you find the PQ, the first PQ. And then when you want to do unit vector, then this is the formula. You just need to remember the hat formula. I think you learned this when you were Form 5. So the down one there is the modulus. How do you calculate modulus? That one is very easy. Just square everything. From here, you just square everything. And then you got the number. Okay, basically just a calculator's work. And then you just apply to the hat formula, PQ, divided by the modulus PQ, and you got the answer. Okay, now this is where people will make the common mistakes. Some people, they just leave their answers this way. They just divide 101. No, you are not allowed to answer this way in exams. Okay, they want it to be separated. It seems like a small matter, but I can tell you that around 10 people, there might be 2 or 3 people do it this way, right? Okay, from your experience. Testing, mic test, mic test. Ayo.
Yeah, so is your
Mic test, 1, 2, 3. Now, are you hearing me? Hello? Okay, should be up now.
Okay, ada.
Okay. Okay, so a very brief one on this part. Like I'm bebel just now, if you heard it. Sorry, we have a lot of internet issues just now. That should be fine by now. You need to separate your answers in this form, this way. What I've seen in exams, people leave their answer in this way, the unseparated, then there will be minus marks. In my experience, around 10 people, 1 people will do, but in certain key experience, he got the smart one, they didn't do it. But every year, my students will do when I was doing this in class. Okay, let's continue. All right. Now, can you imagine how does this look like? Yeah, this point P and Q lie on the plane pi. Just imagine it first. if I were to say, in my advanced futuristic BBM from the future, so there's a plane and there are 2 points. Okay, so there's a point P and point Q. All right. So and then it asks about there need to be equation of a straight line L, which is perpendicular to the plane. So how is a line is a perpendicular to a plane? Okay, now I got our handsome assistant, Mr. Tanky.
You should show the thing, not show my face.
Show a bit lah. Lagi nak famous. Okay, so how does a line perpendicular to a plane? It's like this. Okay. Now, hopefully the green screen will disappear. Yeah, in the magical realm of Ghibli. Should be here suara, dengar balik lah. Okay. I think
Suara hilang lagi.
you got to be kidding me.
Tak ada dah, suara ada.
Suara ada kan? Yeah, I think I need to make the Ghibli realm disappear for one moment.
There's a sound, but this one still tak ada suara.
That one is him. Okay, so there's a straight line, parametric. And then what do we know about this parametric? Is also passing through P. So let's say this is P, let's say this is Q. So it's passing through here. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Imagination, this is how we should visualize it. Okay, so if you want to make equation of a straight line, you need to have the direction vector and the position vector. So now we have to move from there. So R equals to A plus dV. All right. So how do I find the A, which is the position? This is simply P. All right, this is point P, simply that one. You're totally fine. But how do I find the V? Now, this is the harder part. Because what about just now that we have done? The PQ. The PQ lies here. The direction PQ lies here. So it has nothing to do with this line. So this direction, however, since it's perpendicular to the plane, so it's the same as the normal of the plane. Right? So if I can find the normal of the plane, I can find the direction vector of the line. Are you okay? Can you imagine that? Viewers? Fine. Okay, if you have any problem, just ask me and I repeat that one again. So can I find the normal of the plane? Yes, I can. I was already given up here. The normal of the plane is simply 3, 4, 12, negative 12. 3, 4, negative 12. So the normal of the plane here is 3, 4, negative 12, which is the same as direction here, 3, 4, negative 12. Okay, since they are parallel. So simply, Mr. Tenki has write down over here. So this is the P, you can see that's P, and that's a normal of the plane. Okay, so are we done? If you stop here, you're dead. You lose 1 marks because the question is asking for parametric equation. That's just a straight line vector form. So how do you get into parametric equation? You break it into simply x, y, and z. Okay, so you see x, y, and z. Once you reach here, then only you get yourself a full marks. Okay, viewers, are you fine? Do you want me to repeat that again? Yeah, that's okay. I have absolutely no idea why tak ada suara nowadays. Okay, why we keep on disconnecting? Let me double check. Everything should be fine. Okay, serious. Sorry for the horrible. Sekejap tak ada. I make a quick revise on this one again. Normally, when it comes to this to here, discrete random variable, when you are given in function form, normally people get scared. So I said, okay, never mind, just take your time, write down in the table form. Okay, which is down here, what we're going to do. So if you got here, look here first, calculate how many x do you have. So x, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10. And x here, I mean here, x, not x's.
This would cover the
Okay, I think it's time to take that one out. All right, so you might be scared. So how do I write down my p? How do I write down my p? Since there's an x here, so what you need to do is simply substitute the x with the value of the x that you currently have. So for, let's say, for 2, x equals to 2. So I got my p such as 2 over 20. Sorry, 20 here. So when x is 3, my probability will becomes 3 over 20, and so on. So 5 over 20. You okay? Three over 20 is how much? Decimals?
3 over 20.
Okay, all right. Taking that way around. Okay, and so on. So you can write down your answer in this way. Okay, but the question doesn't end there. The question wants it to be in cumulative. Okay, the answer wanted it to be in cumulative. So you have to do the big F. Sorry, here it's not that clearly seen. The big F, how do we do big F? So you have to add up everything, 0.1. 0.1 plus 0.15, 0.25, plus 0.25, 0.5, plus another 0.14, 0.64, plus 0.16, 0.8, plus 0.21.
Answer actually down there.
Why you make it dark?
Because you're not supposed to have hybrid table for the final answer.
All right, so you can have it there. Okay, so that's still easy questions. Allah, thank you. I think they're playing trick on us. Because tadi connection dia hilang kan. Sekejap.
Can you directly input the printout for the PDF? We don't want to use the shaded one. So
Yes, I think still okay. Well, yeah, certain dari out sikit lah.
Okay, sorry, bersabar. The one not start to synchronize.
Tapi okay dah. Tapi sebab connection is out. So it becomes a little bit problem. Salah aja semua gamble a bit. many things already. Yeah, found it. Add new tabs. Okay, for the second part, I want us simply to get here. Find px. I think I do bits by bits. Okay, second one. Viewers, can you see? Nampak? Right. So now they want us to find between probability between 4 until 5. And 4 until 5, you can calculate it from here, the table that we got just now. So since this is discrete, 4 is not included. So what we want to do is px between, let's see, what's after 4? And where is 4? 4 is over here. 4 is not included. So the next one, what you want to find is, it starts from 5, 7, 8. Can you see? So it starts from 5. Discrete, we need to check what's after 4. So from here, there's many ways that you can do. The easiest way is just calculating, taking how much is here, 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 and add them up. So you get yourself 0.55 and you're done. That's one way of calculating. And Mr. Tenki here has provided an alternative solution, actually. You can either do it this way, from F8. So you get from here, F8 minus F4. So what he's doing is he's using the cumulative. He's calculating from here and minus the one that you don't need. Right? This is another alternative solution. Both are fine. Both can give you the same answer. So from here, F8, since we already got cumulative table, so F8 is 0.8. And minus F4, how much is F4 you got here? Less than 4, so there's no 4. So we go for 3, 0.25. So you get 0.55. So you can see here, we got both of them the same answers. Which way do you want to do? Both are fine. It depends on preferences. Do you like to calculate one by one, or do you want to use your cumulative F? In my opinion, since there's only 3, 5, 7, 8, I most likely will choose this one. But hey, if you want to look clever, you can use that one. But it's preferences. Okay, I think done for question. Okay, there's one more. Question C. Question C is pretty much straightforward from the formula book. They say calculate EX and variance X. So you need to know how to do the table. What's your formula? EX simply X squared. EX simply this time here, this time here, this time here. Okay, just time it out. And plus, which will give you here. In exams, they want you to write the whole thing there. And the EX squared, don't forget EX squared, 4, 9, 25, 49, 64, 100, and multiply it down here. If you do exercise, you should be fine by now. This is just body memories. And plus it up. Which give you. Okay, in exams, let me remind you, you're required to write this. You're required to write this one. And then don't forget the formula for variance x. Simply E x squared minus open bracket EX squared. Right, so we just input the numbers in from here. So this one, the value of 616 goes here. The value of 45.1, it goes here. Okay, maybe a little bit more proper. Once you got there, so this is the final answers for it. Are you okay? Now, you can leave your answer in decimals or you answer in fractions. I will personally just write down in the decimals because EX and then EX square variant X, normally even in real life, we'll give the answer in decimals. So that's all from me. So Mr. Thank you will take care. We'll change session after two questions. Right, thank you. Your space. My God. Okay lah. Part one. See.
Okay, so we will continue on section A, question number 3. So in these questions here, let's just quickly go through the questions where according to these questions here, the story being told is that, can I adjust this? Oh. A lorry owners of a car rental company has a fleet of 6 similar lorries, which he ran out of customer on daily basis. So from this sentence here, we know that the story happens in the way that one day the owner have 6 lorry to be rented out. And what do this do to our questions? We will find out later, but let us take notes on this thing here. Then it is known from the past experience, the daily demands for lorry has a Poisson distribution with a mean of 3.56. So this mean here value is actually referred to a lambda, but before we go on further to solve the question, think about what distribution you to use. I would like you to clear about one thing here first. When the time you solve the question, you need to be clear the random variable x that you're going to use later, whether it is defined as what. If then it is meaningless to just kindly solve using the formula there. So according to these questions here, we find out that the one that related with distribution is referred to the daily demands for the lorry. So in other words, it's also similar to the number of lorries being rented out and follow a Poisson distribution with a 3.56 as a lambda for the rate of 1 days. So according to questions 1, question A, they want us to calculate to 3 decimal places for the probability that in any days, so in any days here is referred to 1 day basis, at least 2 lorries are not rented out. So be aware of these questions here where according to the questions, the one that follow is the daily demand. How many lorry is being rented out? But now the question turned out to become not rented out. So it seems to be something different from what we have in the informations. Once again, important that you take notes that what are the x that you want to define for the distribution. So in these questions here, I would like to have x to be the number of lorry in demands, or we say that number of lorry that being rented out. And this x here follow a Poisson distribution of 3.56 in a day. So when the time the question asking about at least 2 lorries are not rented out, it doesn't refer to px greater equals to 2. This is not proper because x is referred to number of lorry being rented out. This is the case that not rented out. So it actually is something like complementary event. This is the case of not X, which I write it as X bar there, the complementary event. Where if let's say I want to have the case of not X is greater equals to 2, therefore the case of X, it will be Px less than equals to 4. As we know, the total lorry is same as the X bar plus X as the remark stated here. So think about it. If you can't imagine how I get these calculations here, let's consider in the way that not X and also X, by right, their total should be equivalent to 6 lorries that is available. So at least greater equals, at least 2, that means greater equals to 2, it will be 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, according to the number of lorry that is available. And according to here, the corresponding X will be 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And this will example the idea of less than equals to 4. And reach up to here, the next thing we do is that in this question here, unfortunately, you are not able to use statistical table to solve the questions, because in statistical table, you don't have a lambda value of 3.56. The parameter, it doesn't exist in your statistical table. So we have to make use of the formula of Poisson distributions, where the formula will be e to power of negative lambda multiplied with x power of lambda over x factorial. And in this case here, we have the x value from 0 until 4. So unfortunately, the calculations are long. If I try to do substitution according to formula, this it will be what is happened to be. And for those of you realize, actually of calculations can be summarized in a shorter way, but not really short also, where we factorize the exponent. But anyway, just a calculator work. You just need to press your calculator to get the answer 0.714 for this. Okay. So this is how we get the answer for this question here. So again, please be aware, what is the definition of the X in your questions and how do they relate with the questions? This is something that you need to be aware. Then we go for A2. So in these questions here for A2, what we have is that continue for the daily basis, we want to find out that the probability, the demand is not fully met. So what I mean by the demand is not fully met is that the number of lorry that request to be rented is more than what is available by the company. According to the questions, there is only 6 lorry there. If let's say the demand is not fully met, that means the number of lorry that required is more than what is available, and therefore in here we shall consider having px greater than 6. And in here the parameter we're going to use is on the lambda 3.56 also, because this is on 1 day. And once again, in this case here, we are not able to use statistical table. So we need to do the calculations using formula. But greater than 6, we are not able to sum up from 7 and onwards, because Poisson distribution, it doesn't have an end value. It's not like binomial. Binomial have some stopping value based on the n. But in Poisson, it can reach until infinity. We're unable to sum all the way until infinity. So we're going to have the complementary probabilities concept here, where we will use 1 minus something that we don't want. So if greater than 6 is the thing that we want, the things that we don't want, it will happen to be less than equals to 6. So we take total probability 1 minus the probability that we don't want. And this probability is the one that we need to make use of formula to do calculation. And in my calculations here, as follows, where I have 1 minus 0.714 plus with the other two cases, which is corresponding to the case of x equals to 5 and x equals to 6. The 0.714 is actually from the previous answer in part A that we already created for x less than equals to 4. So by right in the bracket part here, I do have cover from 0 until 6 for less than equal to 6. And once again, we press our calculator for the answer. 0.070. So this is how we get the answer for these questions here. For 2 marks. It seems like not really worth it calculations a lot. Maybe there is a shorter way we can think of. But at this moment here, this is a solution I'm able to provide to you. Go on. Then next, refer to question B. Now, in these questions here, please be aware it's no longer that is referring to is no longer referring to the case of purely on Poisson. And let's see what happened. We still follow the same main story on top and then find out probability that exactly one lorry is not rented out in exactly 2 out of 4 days. How we get the answer here. Please be aware, the event now, we want to find the probability for the event, not about any lorry is being rented out, but probabilities of number of days that criteria, exactly one lorry is not rented out. So therefore, again, you need to be clear what is a random variable discussed. So in here, we're going to have 2 random variable to be take notes. One is that you must know about X, which is the number of lorry in demands. Y, the number of days that we have exactly one lorry is not rented out. And in this calculation here, we will use binomial distribution to solve this probability. But before we can use binomial distributions, we need to find out corresponding n and also p. And the binomial distribution, I'm going to relate with the random variable y. In here, the n refers to number of days, so I will have n with the sample of 4, whereas the probability here, I need to relate with x, where in here, if exactly one lorry is not rented out, so we are actually asking for the probability of p x bar equals to 1. And again, why x bar? Because x is referred to number of lorry being rented out. The event here is not rented out. So for one not rented out, that means actually there is only 5 is being rented out. Again, how I get this calculation? Because in total, I have 6 lorries there. According to the question, we have 6 lorries there. If one is not rented out, that means the other is rented out. And to do this calculation, px equals to 5, I need to make use of a formula and get the answer as follow. And this answer is the answer that I correct to 3 decimal places. And the actual answer, if you want to try to see from your calculator, is something like this one that I show. I correct here to 3 decimal places to get the answer. Actually, the question doesn't want to create to how many decimal places to proceed. So usually the answer here, you may correct to 3 or 4 decimal places will do. And according to the answer scheme to provide the final answer, they go for 3 decimal places. So I follow through here. And also this answer here is same as the idea in your instruction of your paper that they ask for 3 secant figures. So this is 3 decimal places as well as 3 secant figures. So now we want to find out for this case probability exactly 2 out of 4 days that we have one lorries is not rented out. So in here, y is referred to number of day that exactly one lorry is not rented out, and the number of day in our sample here is 4 according to the questions. And the probability for the event that exactly one lorry not rented out is 0.136, which is come from px bar equals to 1, which I got from the previous calculation. And in here, for this binomial distribution, once again, I need to make use of formula instead of refer to statistical table, because the parameter here, the p, is not given in the statistical table. So therefore, I will have py equals to 2 for 2 days. So I substitute into the binomial formula, where the binomial formula is NCR multiplied with p to the power of r multiply q power of n minus r. So as a result, I will have NC4, 4C, which is for NCR, and then the p power of r, q power of n minus r, and then calculator, press calculator for answer. We have 0.0828. So this is how we get for the answer for these questions here. So if let's say there is any mistake made by me, or you have any question doubt with the solution here, you please kindly put your comment in the chat there. We will come back to you when the time we see the message there. Okay. Next, I will go on for section B. Question 1 regards on the case of numerical solutions. So the questions provided here is just some very routine questions, but the calculation is quite long maybe. So let's see what is happening in the questions here. You're given two functions, y equals to 2x plus 1 and y equals to 15 e power minus 2x. And then in here, A, by using change of sign, show that the equations 2x plus 1 equals to 15 e power minus 2x has the solution in the interval 0 to 1. And how we're going to do for this part 1 here. So first of all, in the routine calculation that you may have learned in your lecture, what you do is that you take these equations here, you will do rearrangement where you put all the stuff on the left and then equal to 0. And this part here, you will call it as fx. Then you do calculation by substituting 0 and 1 inside to get the answer. And how come we can do something like this is because in terms of graph, you find out that if I put fx in graph, for example, this will be the graph of fx, I will find out that the x-intercept of this graph fx here will corresponding to the solution of the equation. And this is the idea how we come to the calculations. And at this point here, we find out that the corresponding y value or the fx value is equal to 0. And in order for this continuous graph to pass through this intersection point, for sure, on one side of it is negative for f, the other one is positive. Or in other words, there's having different sign of the f value on this particular point here. And this is the way that we try to do the proving. So without further ado, let us refer to the solution in part A here. And let's see what we have. So let's see the calculations. So as I said just now, first, the routine calculations is that we have the equations, rearrange everything to the left, take the left-hand side equations, left-hand side of the equations, we let it equals to fx. Then what we do the next is that we try the value of 0 and 1, the endpoint value of this interval that we want to prove that there is a solution into the functions. And then we try to see, do these two have a opposite sign? So we find out that when the time I substitute 0, I have the value equals to negative 40. When the time I substitute 1, I have the value approximately 0.96997. You find out that one is negative, the other one is positive. So we can see that there is a change of sign there. And therefore, with the conclusion, don't end your solution here for the calculation less than or greater than 0. Let people guess what is going on. But state your conclusion, emphasize what you are trying to do in these calculations here. So in here, I write down the reasoning, which is what I want to from this calculation, where f0 is less than 0 and f1 is greater than 0. So this is actually indicates that there is a change of sign. And then we come out with the conclusion. Basically, this sentence here is just copy back from the questions on top here. The equation have a solution in the interval. So this is how we get the answer. Okay, go on. B. So we come to the Newton-Raphson method to find the roots. In this case here, by using the Newton-Raphson methods and initial value of 0.6, find the roots of this equation correct to 3 figures. So how we're going to do for this question here is that first, we need to identify what is the fx we're going to use to solve this equation and also the corresponding f prime. We form our iteration formula. And based on the previous calculation, we already have our fx equals to 2x plus 1 minus 15 e power of minus 2x, where this is obtained from moving all the terms to the left-hand side and take the left-hand side times become fx. Then continue from here, we do the differentiations on the fx. So we have f prime equals to 2 plus 30 e power of minus x. The reason why we want to have these two information is because based on the Newton-Raphson formula, we have xn plus 1 is equals to xn minus the fxn divided by f prime xn. So in this question, it will happen to be x minus 2x plus 1 minus 15 e power of minus 2x over 2 plus 30 e power minus 2x. We are going to make use of this to do calculation. And please use your calculator wisely. Each function in your calculator when the time you do calculations. And therefore, start with the initial value 0.6, which I call it as x naught equal to 0.6. In here, you may use x1 equal to 0.6. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that the x later you put accordingly. So if x naught is 0.6, I substitute 0.6 into this iterations formula for calculation. I will find out that I have my x1 with the result as follow. And here, it's important to take notes. How many decimal places I should put here? So guys and girls, you must make sure you have this decimal here, 1 decimal places extra compared to the final answer. So the questions ask for final answer in 3 second figures. If according to the calculations here, if I want to have 3 second figures, that means it's supposed to be 0.810. And in my calculation, I should have 1 decimal extra than this. So this is what I have from the calculator. Then proceed further. Use this value, plug in into the iteration formula, and it will provide us for the value of x2. So this is the calculation that I have after I substitute the x1 inside the formula, and I have the answer as 4539. And before we go on further, we need to take notes also of the stopping criteria. So when should we stop for our calculation? Some of us may have the misunderstanding to say that you do the calculation until you see the answer happens to be exactly the same repeated. That is not really true. But the actual fact is that each time you finish your calculation, you try to see the 2 latest results. When the time they round off to the decimal places that require in the question, whether do they have, for example, in here, I round off to 3 second figures. This is the result. 3 second figures. This is the result for this, the x2. Compare, are they the same? The round off value, are they the same? So it's not the same. Then I need to go on further. So I go on further for x3. And I find out my answer 0.8554. And once again, how I check, just have a quick look. If I round off, I will have answer 0.855. Compare these 2 latest result, not the same. That means I need to go on for 1 more round for calculation. So I will go on for x4. And by the time I get this answer here, again, this is what I say that people will misunderstood that say that must have the exact value of the iterations to consider as a stopping criteria. But that is not. The actual fact is that we try to see the round off value. So when the time I round off, the round off value is the same. Therefore, we come to the conclusion for the answer, x is equal to 0.855, where this x here is the solution and also the roots for the equations that we have in the questions. Okay. So now for question number 2 in section B, I will pass back to Sir Rodi. Thank you.
Okay, hello there viewers. So we have 4 questions done, 6 more to go. Let's speed up a little bit. Right, next part is easy integration. It's not so difficult. This is quite basics. Okay, so let's do the first one. How do we do this? How do we integrate it? Well, my first instinct will tell me that I can see there's x and there's c ln x. And normally, if I see a ln x, that means we're going to make something about it. It's either substituting or by parts. Either these two. Okay, and for this particular case, we have to use by parts. How do I see that? Because I can see that if I differentiate ln x, I get myself 1 over x, and this value 1 over x is not the same as this one. That one is just x. Okay, so this is a bit advanced. But normally, if I see ln x, I'll be trying IBP first. So let's give it a try. And there's a little trick here. If you can see, there's a square root and there's a ln. What do you do if you see a square root and a ln? So you try to change the power form. And what can you do about this one? Remember your basics of index. I can bring it to the front, which I get myself half ln x. Are you okay? This is still basics. So that's how I got myself into here. And I can bring my 1 over 2 to something like this. Or simply, you can do it that way, not a problem. Maybe you would like to prefer this way instead. 1 over 2 x ln x dx. I can take my 2 out, but I cannot take my x out. Can someone tell me why? Why can I take my x out? This one cannot go out. I've seen a lot of students who did that anyway. I've seen a lot of students who write this one become this instead. And they will die in exams. Just leave it here. The reasons being is because 2 is a constant. Constant, you can take it out. X, however, is a variable. So variable, you cannot take it out. Okay, so X remains inside. I hope you get that one. Yes, 2 is a constant. Good one, I think. And X is a variable. And then from there, normally I'll get myself into this form because I do not like to have something constant to be there. I'll take it from there. And then from here, you see yourself x ln x, as I mentioned now. This is one type. This is second type. You can see there are 2 types over there. What do you do if you got yourself into 2 types? Type 1, type 2. This become typo already. Type 1 and type 2. If you see there are 2 types, type 1 and type 2, so it means it's going to be integration by parts. Okay, integration by parts, don't you forget there are 2 things that you want to do. To be honest, I don't really remember the formula, but I know I want to differentiate one thing and I want to integrate one thing. What do I want to differentiate? You can memorize Lepat or another way of memorizing it. The way I memorize it is simply one that gets simpler. So ln x, if you differentiate, I get 1 over x. Things become simpler. Or in this particular case, ln cannot be integrated, so that's why you have to differentiate. Because you cannot integrate ln. What are you going to get? So that means we integrate the other part. And here, Mr. Tenki take the one with the 2 inside. So you can get ourselves, if integrate, get it into x squared over 4. This is fine. Another way of doing things. Later write that one down. Okay, let's follow Mr. Tenki here first. And then from here, we connect things up, this and this. So you got yourself here. And another one is, let's put the highlighter. It is quite fine. And next one, we take this one with this one. Here. And please remember, in the middle here is a minus. Okay. Everything fine? Okay. See the chat as well. Okay, so just integrate the right hand side, and things are pretty much easy from here. Okay, this is fine. Just a chat, okay? Okay, let's go to question 2. This one here. How do we do it? There are some people who, when I see this, they actually said, "Oh, this one here, there's a more than one, and they said, oh, it's a repeated factors." I've seen someone who did this way in my class. So they said, oh, so I can write down as a partial fraction. Well, he's right. But the partial fraction becomes something like this. I have 3 things. And this is, I don't think is, I have seen it in your syllabus. There are 3 repeated factors. You can solve it if you have enough time. You will say thank you, is laughing. I would not recommend you to do it that way. All right, so what's the best way to continue? Well, I see there's a bracket to the power of 3. My instinct says I'm going to use substitution. So this one, differentiate. Okay, so I'm going to substitute now. I'm going to substitute this one with this part. So down there, I'll get myself u cube. And please remember about the cube, because we only take the plus 1. We the x plus 1. I've seen my student who the cube. And he's a smart person. Careless mistakes happen sometimes in life. And okay, how do we continue further? And then, what about this x squared? We'll simply manipulate this one. So x becomes u minus 1, and it becomes a u minus 1 squared. Are you okay? And it differentiate du dx. So here it just becomes dx. Okay, now here's the kicker. Here's the trick where people always forget. If you leave your answer in this way, you are at the mercy of the examiner. If you leave your answer in this way, however, then you're completely wrong. Because the problem here is because of this. What I'll suggest in exams, you need to substitute it as well, so you'll be safe. If you don't write it down, then there's some year they say, okay, we are fine with it. There's some year say, no, we want to see everything changed there. But if you put 2-1 directly, 2-1, then we'll directly minus your marks. So how do you do that? Some people, lazy bones like me, they will simply, hey, they say just write there, x equals to 2. So just insert here 2. So u equals to 3. And then they make another arrow down here. X equals to 1. So u equals to 2. Or if you're a schema type person, then you can do this table. I've seen an SME, a subject matter expert teacher, who just do it in this way, an arrow. So make sure you write down here 3, you change here 2. All right. So you can use the lazy bones technique or schema technique. But lazy all the way. Right, so we change it. That's what we have done just now. And then how do we proceed from here? How do we integrate from here? I will suggest for you to expand this part first. Just expand this part first. And then from here, things get a little bit easy. How do we? The best way to proceed is to split it up until here. And then you integrate normally. 1 over u give you ln u. This part here becomes power. We are fine. Right, how do you proceed from here? Simply substitute this value 3,2. Side. We substitute value 3,2 and you'll be fine. It's a long press and calculator works, you'll be fine. Now what I've seen is that people do this instead. Some careless mistake person, they say, okay, we got here, and they say, okay, substitution, they always need to sub back. So they make this one become back to the x plus 1, x plus 1, and they use still the value of 3,2. And that's where things go all wrong, right? You do not need to sub back the previous values, because we already have this 3,2. Okay, we already changed. If we don't have this value here, then you need to sub back. All right, so the recommendation will be just sub back this value 3,2. Okay, certain key provide another alternative solution, which he used the sub back technique, ln u, and he used the sub back technique, and he used the original evaluation. But for you to do this correctly in exams, you need to integrate here the first part without the definite integral range. Okay, so it's kind of 2 steps. You do this part first and then show to people, hey, I got another one with a definite integral. I would recommend the first style more. Okay, just finish everything in one swoop. And normally if I see in exams, people will continue write this one down straight away. So make sure you got this one correct as well. Okay. Okay, let's continue for the next question. Okay, this question, I have to admit, kind of stumbled for a while because it's trapezoidal method, trapezium rule. And this trapezium rule, if you don't study, you can't remember, and that's it. Right. So we got 2 curves. We got 2 functions here. Got 2 graph. Y equals to x, y equals to 3x. Another one is this long equation here. And we were told the first quadrant. This first quadrant here will play an important role soon. All right, so we want to find the area, region bounded by this thing. And they ask us to use trapezoidal rule. So first thing first, we make the equation the same, f equals to right hand side. So we take this one equals to this, so 3x. Thank you, less noisy. Less noisy. But you're almost done already. All right, so simply you can take this right side to the left hand side and rearrange things. You can do it this way. And then we try to find the points of interval. What is this value here? So from here we can get ourselves x equals to 0. We are solving this part, splitting it. So x equals to 0. But the right side here is a little bit tricky. Okay, you write down equals to 0. This So set this 0. So I just show you where's the 0 coming from.
The range.
Yeah. Range. So we find the value of x.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the intersection points.
Yes, because you want to find these two values here. So we solve it here. There's a lot of calculator works. Okay, x squared equals to 4. So how much is x? You need to write down -2 and plus first. As I mentioned just now, where the quadrant here, where you play is very important rules. So since I got 2x plus and -2, and since we were told it's in first quadrant, since it was in the first quadrant, so x equals to 2. This is fine. If you be kiasu, write down as -2, reject. Now, what happens if you skip here directly? And you're at the mercy of the examiner. If they said no, the person -2, we need you minus marks. Right? So please write down the whole stuff. As Mr. King Thanky, he still write this one now as well. Long as but in exams it's pitch fine, just like this. Okay, now there's an interesting part we are coming through. What does this 4 interval means? How many strips? How many ordinance? And you might get confused. If you can memorize 4 intervals equals to 4 strips, go ahead. But it's very unnatural. What Sir Thanky and I was thinking just now is that, okay, what does intervals mean? It means stops. So that means over here, four intervals, 1, 3, 4. So that's what it means. You start from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many strips you have there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you okay? You got. Let me zoom a little bit. You start here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How many strips? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's far clearer now. So remember, just put into the equation. So n equals to 4. So the number of strips is 4. So 2 minus 0. Why 2, 0? Because as we have calculated just now, we start at 0 over here. And as we calculated just now that we got ourselves x equals to 2. So over is 2. So 2 minus 0 divided 4. So that's the width, the h. So the distance of this part here, 0.5. The distance here for each of them is 0.5. Now, once you go to trapezoidal method, you need to use, don't forget, one moment. You need to use this one, 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2. And other here, just a calculator's work. Just press in the number, put the numbers in, put the 0 into here, 0.5 into there, and so on. And don't forget that the first and the last is, oh, one moment, no, I accidentally get myself out. First and last, you put at one side. In this case, we are luckily you got both of them 0. Okay, then from there, I might accidentally move the keyboard something. Where did this one come from? Termove around with our. Ya, termove orang. Tadi termove.
Oh,
Okay, so from here, from the table, you got here directly. And you're fine. Okay, remember the formula? This is h by 2. H divided by 2. And then there's a first plus last, this part. And then there's a plus 2, and the rest of this value comes here. First and last is over here. Luckily for this case, we got both of them 0. And then you got the answer. You got the equation. That's okay? Right, trapezoidal rule is not difficult, but if you don't study them, you pretty much mess up. This is not something that you can wing out yourself. Okay, that's all for me. So thanks, thank you. We'll continue 2 more questions, and I'll be back for question 6.
Okay, we will go on with question 4 in section B, which is regards on the case of differential equation. Let's have a quick look on the questions. It was told that the curve passes through the point 1, 0. The gradient of the curve at any point is equal to the following. Then find the equations of this curve here. So in these questions here, since it's talking about a curve on the Cartesian plane, so by right, this point here, coordinate 1, 0, it is corresponding to the case of x equals to 1 and y equals 0. So from here, we can see that the variable that we discuss about x and y, and what is this expression referring to is referring to the gradient, and what we know about gradient, we can always relate it with dy dx. When the time we discussing about x and y as a variable on the Cartesian plane. So to get the equations of the curve here is that we try to solve the differential equation based on dy dx equals to these expressions. And let's see, from the interpretation that we happen to know, if this is dy dx, so we have dy 1 over x cubed plus 2 minus 2y over x. So in differential equation, basically we have 2 methods to solve. It's either we try to use separable methods or we use integrating factor. And which one is more suitable? So it depends on the situations on the questions. So in this case here, we will always try to consider, is it possible to solve by separable method? Because usually we find out that separable method is easier compared to integrating factor. So if possible, then we go for separable method. However, in this case here, we fail to apply separable method. So therefore, I will need to of integrating factors method. And in integrating factors method, step number 1, I need to have particular formations where I need this form here. The dy dx plus px multiply y equals to qx. And according to the questions that we have, it is the form that I need here. And I need to do some adjustment. I like to have this part here I highlighted in blue. I rearrange to the left hand side together with dy dx. And why I choose the 2y over x, not the other, because the one that side by side with dy dx is the one that with y terms. And the only y term I have is on here. So as a result, I rearrange, this is what I have. And next what we do is that we compare here with the pxy. And the reason why we want to compare in this form is because we would like to find out the interactors. Let's say I call the integrating factor as vx, the function vx, which is equal to e to the power of integrations of px dx. So I need to extract out what is the px in this case here. So based on here, we find out that our px is corresponding to 2 over x. And as a result, in our integration, I will have vx equals to e to the power of integrate 2 over x dx. And how we complete integrations here is that, recall on the formula, when the time have integrate 1x dx. So the result should be equal to ln modulus x. And if let's say I have a value of 2 multiplied with it, so it will be just 2 ln x. And in this integration, important to take notes for the chapter here for differential equation. For simplicity, for the calculations later, of course, there is some concept behind it, why we can do like this, but in here, we just cut it short for simplicity. We will just ignore the modulus and we won't put in the plus c here for the result of the integration. As a result, we have just e power of 2 times ln x. Then further, we try to see this result can be further simplified it. And it's possible to further simplify it if we try to apply the knowledge that you learned last semester on exponent and also log. When the time you have, let's say, a base a power of log, also base a, and then inside the log here, let's say I have a terms of hashtag, anything will do for the hashtag, with the conditions that in front of the log, I doesn't have any numbers or negative sign, then this will be equivalent to hashtag. And according our questions, I do have a number 2 in front. Then what I do is that make use of the knowledge that we know on exponent. Let us bring the 2 in. So we have e power of ln x squared. And now the integrating factor here, we have it as x squared. And next, after we get the integrating factors, the third thing that we want to do here is that we would like to multiply this integrating factor into the equation 1 on top. So therefore, I will have Vx multiplied with dy dx plus Vx pxy equals to Qx Vx. Sorry for the horrible writing. So I hope that you can get what I mean here. As a result now, refer to this equation. We're going to multiply with the integrating factor and get the result as follows. So this is the result that I have after multiply. And for the reason why we're doing this multiplication here is that we would like to simplify this part here that I highlighted in blue in the form that we have dx, the integrating factor multiplied with y equals to q. And somehow from here you can see, finally we can have the x and y separated. So therefore, the next step, this is what we have. Where we have this part here that I highlighted in blue. We reduce it to become d over dx multiplied integrating factors multiplied with y. Continue. Usually this step here I highlighted in yellow now is the step that it won't appear in your solution, because usually the moment we have this step here done, we will directly put in the integration sign and have the step below. And reach up to here now. Let us complete the integration and rearrange the term. By right, I should able to get the solution or the general solution for this difference. And for the left-hand side, we can just actually easily extract answer equal to the part that I highlighted in blue, x squared y. However, on the right-hand side, this is something that not so simple, not to say difficult, not so simple as well. We have x squared over x power 3 plus 2. And in this case here, maybe many of you will think of let's use substitution method to solve this question, but actually it's not necessary. We have a shortcut methods, but usually it's being neglected because most of you won't like to use this formula where you think it is hard for you to take care. So in here, I would like to make use of this formula where it's actually also derived from substitution method, but on a specific case, we can directly do according to this formula to get answer. Where what is the thing that I want you to see from this formula here is that the criteria to use this formula is that first, of course, is in fraction form, where the denominator is a function that comes with 1. The power 1 I mean here is the overall function is being power 1. For example, like this. The x cubed plus 2, the whole thing here that I bracket is being power 1. Then I will consider the denominator here as the fx. we have x cubed plus 2. Then next, I need to have f prime of this, and this f prime here is usually not directly provided in the questions, but something that we need to modify to get it. And before you modify to get it, let's see is the actual f prime by differentiating the fx that we have just now. So f prime in here is supposed to be equals to 3x squared. So I need to have a 3x squared on top, but instead in the question now, I just have x squared. So in order to get squared on top of it, so what I do is that I relate in the question x squared with the f prime. How can I have x squared equals to 3x squared? I'm going to multiply with 1 over 3. So this is happening, and as a result, the next slide, you observe carefully. This is the modifications that being done as I highlighted in yellow. From x squared, how can we have the f prime 3x squared coming out? We're doing balancing by using the constant 3 and 1 over 3. You can try to expand it back the 1 over 3e. By right, you will get back the same as the previous line. If you don't, that means something is wrong in the calculations here. Then now, you shall able to see that this part here I underline in green. We can apply the formula and get the following result. So I have 1 over 3 ln modulus x power 3 plus 2 plus c. On the right hand side, sorry, on the left hand side, it will just x squared y. Okay. Maybe in these calculations here that I put asterisk, sometimes for simplicity lah, we will just ignore the sign. But in here, we keep it for further calculations. Then finally, reach up to here, it's up to your choice that whether you want to put it in general solution or not, as according to the question. They never ask for general solution or what, they just want the equation of the curve, the particular equation of the curve. That means the final answer need to be particular. So if they ask for particular solution, it doesn't matter you have given the general solution or not. Anyway, in this case here, I just give the general solution because the calculation for general solution is just simple enough. Therefore, what I did to get general solution, I have the x squared, I divide on both sides, and I get the following result. And please be aware, the constant c need to be divided by x squared as well. Anything or anything changes on the constant c derived from the equation, we need to record down in our calculations for this chapter. Then reach up to here, we need to solve the c to get the final answer. And how to solve the c? Based on the info given in the questions, the 0.01, which we know that x equals to 1, y will equal to 0, we substitute inside the solution that we have. So as a result, at the point 1, 0, so we substitute x for 1, y for 0, we find out c is negative 1 over 3 ln 3. And we just see for the answer as follow. It will be end of the story. Of course, if you want to be very particular to say that this solution seems to be can be further simplified, yes, of course, you can proceed the step as follow lah. But I think during the exam, it's not necessary to proceed any further lah for this step here that I highlighted in yellow. Unless the question forced us to do so, like ask you to prove or show or write form. If not, they just want the solution, they just the equations of the curve. I think reach until here will be good enough in order to save time. So this is solutions number 4 in section B. Okay, so I will just quickly proceed for the next question. If let's say you have anything you want to ask or I have made any mistake, once again, you just kindly post the comment in the chat. Then we will come back later if there's anything. Next, we have the questions come from the chapter random variable. And this question is a bit unusual because we don't see any function there. Instead, we see a graph there. And what you have is that the following is the graph of the probability density functions of a continuous random variable. So we know that this is the case of continuous, which only takes the value of -2 to 4 inclusive. The word inclusive try to tell us we do want to include -2, and also 4 as well. In other words, the interval for this function here is -2 less than equal x less than equals to 4. Include -2, include 4. Then the diagram is like we want to show a equals to 1 over 3. So how are we going to show? And what's the advantage to having the question show that a equals to 1 over 3? Please be aware, during the exam, if let's say the question come out something like this, they ask you to show a equals to 1 over 3. So although you don't know or you to get the answer a equals to 1 over 3, you still can make use of this result to solve the to solve the next part of the question. This is the reason why they want to do show, so that you won't lose all the marks because of the previous part you don't know how to do. And now let us see how to solve for this question here in our solution for part A. So according to the questions, to show A, how can we get the answer of A and where is the A located in the questions? We find out that the A is located at the y coordinate of this point here. And that's it. Find out what is A. So in this question here, we need to make use of our knowledge on what we learned in continuous random variable rather than we just memorize formula to do routine solution. And what is the important concept that we want to take notes in this case here is that first, we find out that the probability for the case of continuous random variable, the probability is actually equals to the area under the graph of your PDF. This is the important things that you need to take notes. Then notice that the total probability is equals to 1. Therefore, the total area under the graph should be equals to 1 as well. So in other words, the regions now that I highlighted in blue, the total area in terms of value will be equal to 1. So we are going to make use of this idea here, solve the question. And how to find this area here? In the usual method, what we do is that we do integration. But in this case here, we don't even know the function. We are not able to do any integration. But you can make use of your knowledge on geometry to help you to solve the question. As you can see, these are straight lines that form a triangle, having the vertices at these 3 points here. And now, from these triangles, we try to solve the A. And we notice that the area of the triangle is equals to the total probability, which is 1. And how to calculate the area of triangle? So the formula, 1 over 2, we will have the base multiplied with the height. And what is the length of the base? We try to find the distance from these two here. We find out that it will be just as simple as 6 units. The height of this triangle will corresponding to the value of A. As a result, the calculation will turn out as simple as 1 over 2 multiplies 6 multiples to 1. So we have 3A equals to 1. A equals to 1 over 3 shown. That's it. Just a simple calculations, as you can see here, but evolve of a lots of basic concept that you can able to relate. Okay. Once we get this answer here done, the next questions that asks us to solve for here is that we would like to find out what is the probability density function of x. In other words, we would like to find out what is the function for these two straight lines that I highlighted in blue and also yellow. So how we get the answer? And this part here, I entered the info, a value 1 over 3, and we try to get the answer here. So when the time we want to solve for the case of finding straight line equations, we need to have a gradient and also a point on the straight line, or we can just have 2 points to get the answer. And in here, before we go on with the solution, we just want to have a very quick look on how to find the answer for the straight line, where first I need to make use of the gradient, where I will make use of the formula gradient n equals to the difference of y of 2 points divided by the difference of x of the 2 points, the x and y coordinate difference. And then to find the straight line, I will have y minus k equals to m times x minus h, where hk is the point on the straight line. And as a result, what I have solutions, it will happens in the way that follow. So let's see the solutions. So here I just display the answer for you to refer. I need the reference of the diagram. So let me display the diagram as well for reference. So let's just start with the calculation of this first straight line here highlighted in blue by using these 2 points as reference. So first I want to find the gradient. So let's say you can use the point on top minus or below minus on top, it doesn't matter. So in here, I use the point that highlighted in orange minus the point below minus 20 as follow. So again, it's the changes of y divide x. So in here, I use y on top minus 0, x on top minus -2. And I get the gradient 1 over 12. From there, go on further to make use of the formula y minus k equals to mx minus h, where once again, and k is a point on the straight line. So in here, I have 2 points as a choice. You may choose this point here highlighted, or you may choose the point below. And in my solution, I would like to choose the point below because evolve of 0, by right the calculation is simpler. So as a result, we substitute the m that we calculate 1 over 12, substitute 0, substitute -2 according to the point on top here, minus 20. So simplify your answer further. I suppose I have my answer, y equals to x plus 2 over 12. And in here, this function is for the interval from -2 to 2, as same as what I highlighted in. Then for the other part that I highlighted in yellow, we're going to use the similar way, where we have from 2 to 4. And in here, please take notes. Maybe you find out that how come I have equal to 2 on both of this interval? Is that supposed to be allowed to do something like this? And my answer to you is yes, because this is a continuous case. And in terms of graph, we can see that no matter which function is it, by right, it comes back to the same point. So it's allowed to have the equal sign for both of them. So the similar calculation, I think I don't want to repeat much. So just have a quick look. So I use the point on top minus the point below. This is how I get the gradient m minus 1 over 6. And then use the same formula, y minus k equals to m x to get the equation. And between the 2 points here for the line yellow, once again, I choose 40, which is simpler, I think. You want to choose 1 over 3 also can. By right, come back to the same answer. But I choose 40 because I believe the calculation will be much easier because evolve of 0 here. So as a result, I substitute. I have my answer, y equals to 4 minus x over 6. Now we gather all our information on the function as well as the interval. Write it in the piecewise function. That will be density function that we want for x. And as a result, so for the piecewise function, fx equals to the first function, x plus 2 over 12, the first one that we find out, this one, the interval minus 2 to 2. Then for the next one, y equals to 4 over 6. So we have 4 minus x over 6 for interval 2 to 4. And then lastly, it's important to note, don't forget about this, have equal to 0 as well for otherwise. Then only this probability function is completed. So this is how we get the answer for these questions here. Okay, so now I will pass back to Sir Rodi.
Okay, we have last two questions. So we are right on track with a few technical hiccups just now. Before we continue, sorry, I got a bit. I want to do this one. What can I say? I like Ghibli. Any of you Ghibli? Okay, let's continue. Now this one is a probability density function. It's still chapter 8, random variable. And when I look at this question, my first question that I ask myself is this continuous or is this discrete? Because continuous and discrete has two different way of doing things. So you do not want to mess them up. If I were to remind my student, I'll say there this thing is called a small f, there's a big F, and a discrete and continuous. I remind them this discrete, continuous. You can move this way, but you do not want to go this way. You do not want to cross. A lot of people who are not good in this topic, they often cross. They do a wrong method, and this even goes to high performance students. They sometimes cross as well. Okay, so first I want to know. So it's a continuous. Right. So how do I find the value of Q? If this is discrete, I say to you as x is 1, 2, or 5, where this is, let's say, 1 over 5, 1 over 5, let's make here 2 over 5. So how much is 4? How do you do? How do you get 4? What will you do is you go plus equals to 1. So you get yourself this one, which is 1 over 5. Okay, if discrete. So the same concept for continuous is that I'm going to plus. But in continuous, you cannot plus. You have to do integrate. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate this first part here. Let's say this is the first equation. For the sake of an easy way of talking, first equation, second equation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate the first equation plus the integration of the second equation equals to 1. That's the same, plus equals to 1. All right. So let's have a look. Concepts are the same. As you can see here, we are using the same 1020 here for the first one. And the second one over there. Some students ask me, sir, it's written here less than 20. Why are you using 20? Why don't you use 19? And I say, okay, tell me a number that is less than 20. And this is continuous. That means I can go decimals. And people normally say 19.9. And I said, why don't you go 19.9999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999 so you get very near to 20. Right? So now nothing much, just simple integration. Just a simple integration, and you can solve it. You get yourself Q equals to 0.3. Okay? Just a slight note. As you can see here, as our calculation here, that this side here is 0.5. I'll come back to this one. So I'm telling you this one here, if I integrate, I get myself 0.5. I'll be back for that. Why? Yes, for the second part of the question, sorry. For the second part of the question, it says here, let me wrap things off for a while. Given Px less than R, figure out what is 0.55. Px less than R equals to 0.55, find what is R. How do you solve this one? It's the same method where sometimes you are given this question, such as Px equal to R equals to 0.5. So instead of writing down 0.5, I'm just changing to 0.755. But the concepts are still the same. All right. So before I continue, I just want to ask you this. If I give you a cake and I'm dividing it into 2 slices, which one will you take? The left or the right one? And you say it doesn't matter, size anyway. Okay, fine. But if I give you a cake and I slice it this way, which one will you choose? And people say, oh, I choose the left one. One class, I asked them, the first one, they say, which one they will choose? They choose the right one. I say, why right? They say, right is more blessings than the left. The Muslim students say that. And I was like, okay, fine. So I given this one. And I said, they choose the left one. I said, why? Why this time you're choosing the Satan way, not the blessing way? I said, oh, because bigger. I said, yeah, suits you greedy people. Okay, so the idea is you want to choose the bigger one. All right. The main idea is you want to choose a bigger one. How do you know it's bigger? We can see it's bigger. Okay, fine. Now, if I'm asking you this equation here, which one's bigger? The first equation or the second equation? You will not know. You have to calculate for you to know. How do I calculate? And the one that we have done just now. Okay, this one is for the left one. This one is for the right one. Okay, as we have calculated here just now, we got the left one as 0.5. So that also means the right side is also 0.5. 0.5 by 0.5 equals to 1. Okay. Now, hard part is, where is 0.755? Do you remember or GIF from your school days? Some of you have trauma in drawing this graph, where the top is 1, bottom is 0. I have trauma in drawing or GIF because my hand's in not a good draw. So 0.755 is somewhere around here. I think I better draw it a bit properly. My emotional trauma overtaken me. But for our case here, we got 2 functions, correct? So what will actually happen is this. The blue one is the first function because we start from 0, 10 to 20. So let's say if that's here, let's say I write down, there's a 10, 20, 30. The blue part will go something like this. And the second part, it will go something like this. See, I start here. I did not do it this way. I did not do it this way because as our OGIF graph, it keep on continuing up. Why? Because it's cumulative. You keep on adding and adding and adding. So the first graph, the size of the first graph as we calculate this now is 0.5. Same for the second one is also 0.5. So here, the height is 0.5. Are you okay? Starting from 0. And the top of the graph, 1. Are you okay? Now, where is 0.755? 0.755 lies over here. So it lies in the second graph. Do you got it? It doesn't lie in the first. It doesn't lie in the first function. It lies in the second function because you have to add up and add up. This is your R. Visualizing graphically, this is how it looks like. Okay, so since we know our R is in the second graph, there are many ways to calculate it, but the shortest way of calculating will be integrate the second graph, integrate the second function, I'll go integrate the function. The maximum is 30. As you can see, is 30. So you go here, R to 0, R 30, and you want to know how much is this much. And it will be 1 minus 0.755 equal to 0.245. This will be the cut of doing things. Right. Or you can even say that cumulatively, I can say F30 minus FR. If you have the way of looking at things. But you not need to necessarily do it this way because we don't have the capital F. I'm just showing you another way of looking at things. All right, so as I mentioned, just take the second function. See, this is the second function, 0.2545. So we go heading the other direction. And just put it in number. Okay, so we got ourselves trying to solve here. R equals to 23, 27. Since our limit is until 20, the second function is from 20 to 30. So we are taking 23, we reject the 37. Right, so that's how we come to our final answers. This is one way of looking at things, or you can also look at it in the area under the graph method. But I like to do the giveaway. Okay, so one last question by Tenki before we end.
Okay, so let's see the last year for today before we come back to just now the maths IQ questions. Maybe you can provide us the answer after this because we failed to think about it, our jam. So let's see. Let's just finish these questions here first. Question number 7. A van can take either road M or road N for a particular journey. If road M is taken, the journey time is normally distributed with a mean of 46 minutes and a standard deviation of 10 minutes. However, if road N is taken, the journey is normally distributed with a mean of an unknown value, a mu minutes, and a standard deviations of 12 minutes. So in these questions here, please be aware there is two normal distribution that we may need to consider, where it is based on whether the journey taking which route, whether M or N. And you must read the questions carefully to see we are discussing on M or N. So A, find the probability that the journey takes more than 60 minutes for road M. B, the probability that the journey takes less than 60 minutes is 0.85 for road N. And C, you start to talking about time. The van set out for 6 o'clock and need to arrive before 7 o'clock and find which road. And this one need to think about it for some calculation. Then for 5 consecutive days, the van set out at 6 o'clock and take road N. Find the probability that it arrived before 7 o'clock for all 5 days. So the last one, it seems like it run far away from normal distribution. We need to go on with renomial. So let us try to solve the first questions A first, regards on normal distribution according to the story. So let's see. A. Find the probability that the journey takes more than 60 minutes for road M. So again, in this case here, the first thing you solve for chapter 9 question is not to think about which distribution, but think about what is the definitions of the random variable that you use. Then only you consider this random variable, we consider what distribution. So in here, we are interested to know the probability that the time needed be taken, the journey time for using route M. So therefore, in here, I will consider X as the journey time for route M, and to be specific, in minutes. And this is follow a normal distributions according to the questions. It follow normal distribution according to the questions, where I have a mean of 46 minutes and standard deviations of 10 minutes. So with that, I can have X follow normal distribution 46 comma 10 square. It need to be 10 squared because in the distributions here, we write variance, not standard deviation. So for variance, it will be square of standard deviations. And now distribution is done. We can easily find out the probability for the questions that take more than 60 minutes. If X is referred to the journey time, and the journey time take more than 60 minutes, so I will have the calculation for X greater than 60. Then this is a normal distribution. I will need to do standardization before I can use statistical table. So by doing standardizations, I suppose my answer can be just as simple as z greater than 1.4. In the lecture note, see that we go through these calculations here. We show that 60 minus 46 divided by 10, and then get the answer 1.4. But in your actual exam, it's all right that you can just directly simplify, come to this answer, and reach up to here. Instead of memorizing what form that you should use, what type of calculations, and refer to statistical table, I will always advise that after you do standardizations, a quick look on the standard norm distributions curve, where the middle point here is 0, and try to observe the regions for this probability is where. And then we further find out the answer, further consider how we should plan for our calculation, and relate with statistical table. So for greater than 1.4, so 1.4 should be somewhere on the right of 0, and this is supposed to be the region we want. And whenever from the diagram you find out that the region is on the right and all the way shade to infinity, and this region is small, then this is something that we can get direct answer from statistical table. So as a result, we have 0.0808 statistical table. And before we go on further for the next question, it's important to take notes on the next info, that maybe some of you will have the idea that these questions, can I use px greater equals to 60 to solve instead of just greater? Anyway, the answer is the same. So my response to you is no. Although the final answer is the same, but in normal distributions, it's still important that you interpret the questions correctly. The questions want more than 60. So it must be using greater than 60 only, not supposed to have equal sign. And keep this up all the way until you complete your standardization. After you do standardization, the calculations, then we will regardless whether you want to have equal sign or not equal sign. And for that, we will see further in the next example in part B. So go on, part B. Now, part B, for the same story applied just now, we want to find out the probability that the journey takes less than 60 minutes is 0.85. The probability that take less than 60 minutes is 0.85 for the road N. And in here, once again, please be aware, please don't just blindly write down your calculation, P bracket X, so on and so forth. But once again, you must be very clear about the random variable, what is its definition. So based on just now the calculation, we have X as the journey time for road M. Now, if we discuss about road N, then I should have something else instead of X, so that we can see the difference. Especially later, we will have comparison for these two in question C. So I would like to define a new random variable. Let's say I call it as Y, as the journey time for taking road N in minutes. And according to info, N also follow normal distribution. Mean is an unknown mu, and standard deviation is 12. And as a result, based on this info, I should have my Y follow normal with N mu 12 square. And then from here, we try to go on further to solve what is the answer for mu. And the info that we can apply here is that probability that the journey take less than 60 minutes is 0.85. So in this case here, I will have P bracket Y less than 60 equal to 0.85. And once again, guys and girls, you must interpret the questions correctly. They say less than 60, so they shall not be equal on the 60. Go on. Reach up to here, maybe you are stuck because usually what you do is that you have P bracket something and then you find the probability. But today you already have the probability answer, then you have lost somewhere that you don't know how to proceed. And once again, what we're trying to find in this question here is the mu. And if you're able to come until this step here, no matter what situation, and you know this is normal, I do that. Please do one more step. At least you won't lose one simple marks here. And maybe from this simple step here, you have further idea on how to solve further. So by doing standardization, the step that I want you to do is standardize. So from Y, we change to Z, where we have 60 minus the mean, divide by standard deviation of 12. Then it equals to 0.85. So reach up to here, standardization is done. After this step here, the inequality, whether have equal or not, we don't care. We just simply put with or without equal will do. Because after this step here, what we more important is the value rather than the meaning compared to the questions. So reach up to here. Maybe you are still stuck. Then I will advise you to do one more thing that I will usually do. The moment you finish your standardizations, let us try to go for a drawing of a bell-shaped diagram to investigate. So what is the info that we can know? So let's see. Usually, when the time we do this bell-shaped diagram, we know these figures here, and then I can easily plot and then shape the region. But unfortunately, today it involves an unknown mu. Then I don't know what is the exact figures, and this figure I highlighted in blue, it can give a negative answer, it can give a positive answer. So how I decide the regions in the diagram here? So watch out. There is two important info that you need to take notes. First is the inequality sign. Second is the figures here, 0.85, the probability value. So what is the info that I know is that for the case of less than, I notice that it will be happens to be from this value I highlighted in blue all the way I'm going to shade until negative infinity. So let's say I call this part here as hashtag. That means if let's say hashtag is somewhere here, then the region I need to shade is all the way from hashtag to negative infinity. So this is the first info that I know. Next, what is this value happen to tell us is that it tells us how big is your region. As we know, the total region under the curve is equal to 1. If 0.85, that means that it will cover more than half of these diagrams here. And therefore, where is the possible answer? What is the correct answer? So if you're still unable to guess, you're still unable to get the answer here with one diagram, then let us make one more diagram where again I call this part highlighted in blue as hashtag. In the bell-shaped diagram, your hashtag can only put in two positions, either on the left or on the right of the bell-shaped diagram. And if on the left, shade all the way to negative infinity will be this part. For the one in right, will be the region as we can see here. And now with these regions here, think about it, which one is more possible to have the value of 0.85? And as we say just now, 0.85 is a large region. It should cover more than half the bell-shaped diagram. And from there, we somehow know that this one is not to be the reference diagram. We will go for the other one here. So this region here is 0.85. Okay, go on. After you have these regions here, then so what? How can it help us to solve further? This regions here is on the left and is big. Statistics table unable to provide us the answer. So what we need to do is that we need to do some modifications. where we try to think about how can I get these regions here by calculations. And you find out that one of the way to get this region here is that we take the total region, which is 1, minus the part in blue here, where we notice that, again, the total region 1 minus the part that I highlighted in blue should equals to 0.85. And the part that I highlighted in blue, it is actually equivalent to probability Z greater, or maybe you want to put equal also doesn't matter in this moment here, with or without equal doesn't matter anymore, of the hashtag value. So as a result now, I will have the changes happen from here. 1 minus the region highlighted in blue. So this is the region that I highlighted in blue. Then the right hand maintained as 0.85. Rearrange the equation, simplify the constant, you find out that we have P Z greater equal to 60 minus mu over 12 is equal to 0.15. And if you ever realize these calculations here, these figures here, 0.15, is actually referring to the region in blue here. And after all the hard work of your calculation, actually in diagram, you just see that it just relate with these regions here highlighted in blue equals to 0.15. And from there, we get the answer. So as you can see, these regions here highlighted in blue is a region on the right. We're going to shade all the way until positive infinity, and the region is small, smaller than 0.5. By right, we can get the answer for statistical table. So in here, by referring to statistical table, I find out that I have the value pz greater than 1.0. It have the value of 0.5 or closest to 0.15. Therefore, now by comparing the two values that I highlighted in yellow, so I will have my answer as so. Mu is 47.52. And once again, the inequality sign, whether got or without, it doesn't matter because we just want the values. And of course, the best is that if this part here, the last line here, if you put greater equal, then your question or your finding from the table also we put greater equal. We follow back what is you have in the last line. In terms of statistical table, it doesn't matter. Greater or equal, they give the same answer, 0.15 for 1.04. So this is how we get the answer for mu for part B. So for A and B, it's just some routine calculations for two different situations. Then start to go to part C. It's time to have some decision making. After you have all the calculation on probability that you have calculated, now we apply our knowledge on probability to make decisions. So according to the questions, the van set up at 6 o'clock and need to arrive before 7 o'clock. So from this time here, we can see that the journey times that allowed for us for this situation here is that we need to have less than 1 hour, which is actually also equivalent to less than 60 minutes. We need to have the journey done less than 60 minutes and determine which road it should take and justify your answer. So now, with the condition that you must reach the destination less than 60 minutes and make a decision which route to take and justify your answer. So this question here, they say you justify your answer means that they want you to give the reason. You don't just simply choose a road because you feel like something like that, but must have some proper reason in terms of maybe calculation, maybe in maths, since our chapter in our subject here in maths, to prove that why it's valid to choose the answer that you provide, not you just simply blindly tembak one answer out. So in here, we're going to make use of the knowledge on probabilities, where we try to think about it for each of the route, the probabilities of reaching the destinations using less than 60 minutes, which one is higher, then that is the one that we want to choose because we have higher chances to reach before 7 o'clock. So based on the previous calculations, in part B, we realized that if taking route N, The probability of using less than 60 minutes is 0.85. This is for taking root n. Now I just need to find out for the case of taking root m, what is the probability for it to take less than 60 minutes? And then I compare these two answers will do. And of course, guys and girls, you don't simply spend your time, you don't have to waste your time to recalculate x less than 60 by doing standardization, so on and so forth. But instead, we make use of the info in your calculation in question 1, where we find out that in question A, we find out that probability use greater than 60 will be 0.0808 to do our answer. And how we do so is that, let's see. If I want to find the probability x less than 60, the calculations will be using the complementary way of probability. I will have 1 minus px greater than 60. Overall probability minus the case that we don't want. And in general, by right lah, it should be 1 minus px greater equal to 60. However, this is the case of continuous random variable. For your information, normal is continuous random variable. With or without equal, they have the same probability value. Therefore, in this calculation here, you see I use greater only. So plug in the previous result in part A. I find out the answer is 0.9192. And just by using simple mathematical concept, you can see lah, compare these two figures here. The larger one will be the one that we want. And we find out that px less than 60 have larger probability. Therefore, it seems to be root m will be a better choice. And justify your answer, we give the reasoning as follow. You have the higher probability by writing px less than 60 is greater than py less than 60. So for further remarks, what is the meaning of this simple sentence here in blue? So it's trying to tell that the van have higher chances to arrive before 7 o'clock by using road M if it compared to road N. So this is what it's trying to tell. Of course, if you think that not secure enough to write this statement here in blue, it's all right. You copy back the statement in red here. Okay. Last one, D. Okay, let's see. The last questions. Usually, some questions that like to come up in the final, they want to mix up the probability. They want to relate with. They want to relate the distribution from one to another. Where in these questions here, please be aware. On 5 consecutive days, the van set out at 6 o'clock and it took road N. Now, this time they particularly want to have road N. Regardless of no good for road N, they want road N. So find the probability that it will arrive before 7 o'clock for all 5 days. And how to get this answer here. So this answer here, we are going to relate with the case of binomial because previously when the time we calculate using normal, we just consider about 1 day only. But now, in this case here, we consider a few days as a sample. And here, we would like to have a new definitions of the random variable. So just now I have used X, I have used Y, and maybe you would think of using Z, but I won't because Z is reserved for standard normal. So let me use W, where the W here, I want to refer to the event that how many days will arrive before 7 o'clock. And therefore, in here, the sample that I have is that X follow a binomial distribution with a sample of 5 days. And the probability here, please be aware, how I decide the probability is that what is the probability that I able to arrive before 7 o'clock if I using road N. And this answer here, somehow we can see from part C just now. Arrive before 7 if using road N, what is the conditions? Which is Py less than 60 equal to 0.85. Of course, for some of you that you don't really understand what is going on, maybe you just look at the question where got probability, you somehow plug in inside lah, but coincidentally correct if you do like that. But in here, I hope that you understand why we choose 0.85. So as a result now, we have W followed binomial, 5, 0.85 for the N and also P. And in these calculations here, for the sample of 5, we are interested to know all 5 of them have the success case. Therefore, I would like to find out for PW equals to 5 by using formula 5C5, probability of success 0.85 power 5, multiply 0.15 power 0, and I have the answer 0.4437 if I correct to 4 decimal places. And of course, all these calculations here, there is a fastest way. There's another faster way to get the answer where you don't have to think about binomial because they consider a sample of 5 days and they want all the 5 days to be success. Therefore, you just take the probability of success, 0.85 power 5. It will give back the same answer actually. So this is how we get the solutions for the last questions here in this set paper. And then I will pass back the mic to Sir Rodi for closure. Thank you.
Okay, hello there, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. Yeah, still high level people. Okay, we're nearly at the end. Nothing much. And yeah, the quiz one, I have no idea as well. Didn't think about it. But I would like to give you a little recommendation of what to do. A fun way of doing things. One moment. You can go to this website, odiraja.com over here. And there's a edu game section here. You can go and click over there. I suggest you do this with computer because with the phone it's always crash. This is the game I create for integration. A few things, and I said this is quite an old file. I use it with Scratch. It took me a lot of time, but Scratch is very unstable, unfortunately. The new version, I couldn't get it done by time. So, and it's around 300 megabytes once you want to upload it, to load it. So sorry about that. So it's better if you use PC, less hang. If you like Attack on Titan, it's from season 1 until season 3. Season 4 only 1 episodes I put over here. Where there's a lot more Titan killing, eating people. In season 5, the final season has none of that yet. Or maybe none of it. It's just a lot of rumbling, stepping. Yeah. Final seasons is not going to end soon. How many seasons they're going to have? Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 3, Part 1. I always say Attack on Titan have a bad numbering system. One moment until it load up. I'm not going to play all of them for you. This is for you to study your integration. And any of you would like to watch Guardian of the Galaxy, the third one, Volume 3. I haven't watched it yet. I'm not thinking of watching it yet for now either. I'm really looking forward for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, that one, I'm looking forward. So you wait until your exam is over. What movie will you like to watch once the exam is over? What movie you will go straight to the cinema and say, this, I've been waiting for this? Write down in the down in the chat or comment section. Okay, sorry, a little bit more. Okay, so you can play this game and try your integration. Okay, this game has won the Bronze Award for gamification at Honolulu University. Yes, if you are late in answering, the Titan will come and take you. Yeah, Attack on Titan fans, have fun. If you manage to answer it wrong, let's try wrong. Try non. Titan will kill you. If you answer it correct here, which is split denominator, best way to do, you will kill a Titan instead. Okay, so rodidajat.com. the game over there, and there's a solution with the clear explanations. Alright, so I'll leave the rest to you on your own. Have fun, Sasageo, and all the best for your exams. Okay, that's all. Thank you for watching very much. And I really highly appreciate that you stay until the very end. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. All the best for your exam, Sasageo. Bye. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe.